Now, let's talk about something that might seem subtle, even trivial at first glance, but actually carries a world of meaning. You see, when a woman is craving you but trying to hide it, her words might be guarded, her tone reserved. But her body, that's a whole different story. The body doesn't lie. It's ancient. It's evolved over thousands of years to communicate far beneath the surface of conscious thought. And if you learn to pay attention, you'll start to notice that there's a kind of language going on underneath the noise, underneath the masks that people wear in polite society. Now, I'm not talking about the obvious stuff here. Not the exaggerated gestures or over-the-top flirting. That's usually compensatory. No, I mean the micro-expressions, the fleeting glances, the way her eyes might hold onto yours just a beat too long. She might be looking at you in a crowded room, and the second you catch her gaze, she looks away, not because she's not interested, but because she is asterisk, because there's tension there, and the tension is revealing. There's a nervous energy that comes with craving and concealment. Maybe her foot is pointed in your direction when you're talking, even if her shoulders aren't. Maybe she touches her hair more when you're around, or adjusts her clothing ever so slightly. These aren't conscious choices. These are deeply rooted behavioral cues that signal attraction, even when someone's trying to keep their emotional cards close to the chest. Now imagine this. You're speaking, maybe telling a story, and you see her lean in. Not dramatically, just a subtle shift forward, like she's trying to soak in more of you. Your words, your voice, your presence. That's not just good manners. That's biology. That's a pull she's feeling but maybe doesn't want to fully acknowledge. And it's not even about sex, though that's often in the mix, but something more primal, attention, connection, desire for resonance with someone who sees her in a way the world doesn't. And then there's mirroring, one of the more fascinating aspects of nonverbal signaling. She picks up her drink after you pick up yours. You lean to the side, and so does she. Again, it's not scripted. It's not performative. It's emergent behavior from deep emotional alignment. People do this unconsciously when they're drawn to someone. It's the body trying to synchronize, to harmonize, like two instruments trying to find the same key. The irony, of course, is that these cues are more honest than anything she might say out loud. Words are subject to fear, to ego, to all the games we play to stay safe in the social hierarchy. But the body, especially when left unguarded in moments of presence, tells the truth. And so, if you want to know whether she's craving you, but hiding it, don't just listen to what she says. Watch how she moves, how she reacts, what she does with her hands when you speak, whether her pupils dilate, whether her breathing subtly shifts in rhythm with yours. It's in those details, so small they often go unnoticed, that the truth whispers. You have to be still enough to hear it, sharp enough to see it, and honest enough with yourself to recognize it for what it is. Not imagination, not wishful thinking, but a reality trying to surface through the cracks of self, protection, and restraint. And when you begin to understand this, you realize something powerful. The body often speaks before the mind is ready to admit what it wants. Now think about this for a moment. There's something deeply telling about the way a person starts showing up in your life, seemingly out of nowhere, again and again. Not in grand, overt gestures. No, that's too obvious. I'm talking about the little patterns that start to emerge when someone is drawn to you but isn't ready, or willing, to admit it to themselves, let alone to you. A woman who's craving you but hiding it will often find ways to place herself near you, and she'll do it in a way that seems almost accidental. But if you pay attention, you'll start to notice these coincidences piling up. You might be at the same place, at the same time, more than once. Maybe she starts showing up at events she didn't used to attend, or suddenly takes an interest in things you've always been passionate about. It's subtle, it's masked in the socially acceptable form of shared interests or friendly curiosity, but underneath that surface there's a drive, a gravitational pull that's moving her toward you, and it's not random. It's intention veiled as chance. You see, people don't rearrange their routines for nothing. Time is limited, energy is finite. When someone begins investing both in your direction, even if it's under the radar, they're telling you something. They might not be ready to admit it. They might even be denying it to themselves. But the behavior is the signal, and often the behavior is more truthful than the story they're telling themselves about what they feel. Now, this can be confusing, especially if you're only looking for direct expressions, because she might not flirt, she might not say anything particularly affectionate, and she might even downplay her interest if questioned. But she keeps showing up, keeps texting you first for small things, keeps tagging you in posts or sending you videos you'd find funny. These aren't grand declarations, they're breadcrumbs, little offerings of attention meant to maintain proximity without risk. And that's what craving often looks like when it's filtered through fear or uncertainty. It's careful, calculated, but consistent, and this consistency is key. Once, twice, sure, maybe that's chance, but when it starts becoming a pattern. When you notice she always seems to walk into the room right around the time you do, or that she brings up things you've said in past conversations, even the minor ones you forgot, that's not forgetfulness on her part. That's memory fueled by meaning. People remember what matters to them, especially when they're trying not to care. That's the paradox, and there's a reason it's hidden. Vulnerability is dangerous. Desire can be risky, especially in a world where rejection is real, and wounds from past experience still echo. So the craving doesn't vanish. It simply cloaks itself. It steps into the background and plays a quieter game. A strategic game, because even though she might not want to admit how drawn she is to you, the yearning is still there, shaping her behavior whether she acknowledges it or not. What you have to realize is that these accidental moments of contact, these little acts of shared space and repeated presence aren't just incidental. They are deliberate in a way that often escapes the person doing them. But if you're awake, if you're attuned to patterns and to the deeper logic of attraction, you'll see them for what they are. Signs of desire seeking permission to surface. And once you see that, once you understand that the repetition is rarely random, you can begin to interpret the quiet language of presence for what it truly is, a craving hiding in plain sight. Let's explore something that's often misunderstood but incredibly revealing: jealousy. Not the overt, possessive kind that erupts in arguments or accusations. No, I mean the kind that simmers quietly, wrapped in sarcasm, masked by curiosity, or cloaked in indifference. When a woman is craving you but hiding it, one of the ways that craving leaks out is through how she reacts when she perceives competition. You mention another woman, maybe casually, maybe just in passing, and suddenly the tone shifts. The mood changes, her response is subtle, but it's not random. It's the product of an emotional reaction she doesn't want you to see but can't fully control either. This is where you have to pay attention, not just to what she says, but to how she says it. She might joke about it. Oh, is she your type? She might say with a smirk. But underneath that smirk there's a tension, there's a micro-expression, a flicker of something. Envy, discomfort, defensiveness. That's not just friendly banter. That's a window into an internal conflict. She wants to stay hidden, to preserve her pride, but part of her can't help but react when she feels threatened by another woman stepping into a space she secretly wishes was hers. And this isn't always verbal. Sometimes it's a shift in energy. Maybe she withdraws slightly, becomes colder or more critical. She might suddenly act unimpressed with you or disengaged, as if she's above it all. That distancing is often a defense. She's trying to regain control over something that emotionally has already taken root. And that's the thing when someone craves you but can't or won't express it. Their desire will often show up as resistance. They'll push against what they feel because admitting it means opening a door to vulnerability, and that's terrifying. Now let's be clear, not every curious question or sarcastic jab is a sign of hidden desire. But when it becomes a pattern, when she's consistently attuned to your interactions with other women, when she subtly probes or reacts whenever the topic of your dating life arises, then you're seeing something deeper. That's emotional investment. That's a person who's paying attention because it matters to them, even if they wish it didn't. You might notice she brings up your love life in moments that seem oddly timed. Like you're talking about something else entirely, and out of nowhere, she says, "So, are you seeing anyone?" That's not just curiosity, that's a scan, a check-in, a way to measure her chances without exposing her own feelings. She's looking for signs, not just of your availability, but of your interest, because if she senses you're emotionally committed elsewhere, that changes the calculus of her hidden craving. It forces her to either let go or become more guarded. Either way, that question wasn't random, it was loaded. The truth is, we don't get jealous about things we don't care about. Jealousy, even in its softest, most disguised form, always points to value. It's a reaction to the fear of loss of something we desire, whether or not we admit that desire. So when you notice those shifts in tone, those subtle interrogations, those moments where she seems just a little too interested in who's texting you or who you were talking to, pay attention. Because more often than not, it's not about the other woman. It's about you and what you represent to her, even if she can't bring herself to say it out loud. And when you start seeing those moments for what they are, you realize something important. Jealousy is often the clearest whisper of a desire that's been forced into silence. Let's talk about something that can be maddening if you don't understand it, this hot and cold behavior that some people exhibit when they're wrestling with feelings they don't want to confront. It's one of the clearest yet most confusing signs of hidden desire. One day, she's warm, engaged, laughing at your jokes, making you feel like you're the center of the universe. The next, she's distant, cold, almost indifferent, and if you're not paying attention to what's really going on, it feels like emotional whiplash. But underneath that inconsistency, there's a pattern. There's a very real emotional battle playing out. You see, when a woman craves you but isn't ready to admit it to herself or to you, she often ends up caught in this internal tug-of-war. Part of her wants to be close to you, to lean in, to drop the act, and just let things flow naturally. But then the fear kicks in, fear of rejection, fear of being too exposed, fear of losing control. And so she pulls back. She freezes the warmth, she distances herself, not because she doesn't feel something, but because she does, and feeling it makes her vulnerable, and vulnerability is terrifying if she's not sure what she'll get in return. What's interesting is how deliberate the withdrawal can seem. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's a slight shift in how quickly she replies to your messages, or maybe she suddenly becomes busy when you try to make plans. It can be subtle, but the timing is everything. Often, the distance comes right after a moment where things got emotionally close. Maybe there was a deep conversation or a shared moment of silence that felt too real. And instead of leaning into that feeling, she retreats from it. Because to lean in would mean acknowledging that what's happening between you isn't just friendly. It's charged, it's meaningful. Now, if you're not grounded, you might interpret this behavior as a lack of interest. You might think she's just playing games or being manipulative, and sure, in some cases that happens. But more often than not, this pull is a reflection of internal conflict. It's someone trying to suppress a desire that won't go away. She's drawn to you, but at the same time, she's afraid of what that draw might mean for her identity, for her emotional safety, for her sense of control. And here's the key: the intensity of the coldness often mirrors the intensity of the craving. The more she feels, the more she resists, because desire is destabilizing. It threatens the persona she's constructed, the one that's cool, collected, unbothered. And so, to preserve that persona, she pushes you away right after pulling you close. Not because she's cruel, but because she's scared. Because if she lets the craving show, then what? What if you don't feel the same? What if you do, and it still falls apart? That's the vulnerability she's trying to avoid. So instead of steady warmth, you get this fluctuation, connection followed by retreat, affection followed by detachment. But here's the truth. You don't act this way with someone who means nothing to you. You don't go through that emotional roller coaster over a person you're indifferent toward, that hot and cold behavior that's a signal. It's not about the inconsistency itself, it's about what the inconsistency is protecting. And once you understand that, you stop taking it personally, you stop chasing the heat and fearing the cold, you recognize it for what it is, a defense mechanism from someone who feels something deeply, but isn't ready to face the consequences of that depth. And that insight changes everything, because when you see the fear behind the fluctuation, you're no longer confused. You're aware, and awareness is the beginning of truth. Sometimes the most profound signs of desire are the quietest ones. They're not wrapped in flirtation or dramatic gestures. They come through as unwavering support, as a kind of emotional presence that doesn't cross any overt romantic lines. And this is particularly interesting, because when a woman is craving you but hiding it, what you'll often see is her showing up in ways that seem purely supportive, even platonic. She listens, she remembers details about your life, she encourages you when you're low, and she celebrates your wins. And yet, she keeps her emotions carefully contained. She doesn't let it spill over, she holds back. It's a strange paradox. She's emotionally invested, but restrained, not because she doesn't feel anything, but because she feels too much. And she's afraid that if she lets that be known, everything will change. So she finds the safest path forward. She chooses to be close, but not too close, caring, but not vulnerable. She positions herself just on the edge of intimacy, where she can still offer value, still be present, but doesn't risk being seen in a way that would reveal the depth of her desire. This form of reserved loyalty, it's easy to miss or to misinterpret as mere kindness. You might tell yourself, well, she's just a really good friend. And maybe she is, but ask yourself this: does she show up for others the way she shows up for you? Is her attentiveness consistent across all relationships? Or is there something in the way she treats you, some subtle distinction, that suggests a different kind of emotional priority? Because that distinction is everything. You see, people don't extend consistent emotional energy toward those they're not emotionally invested in. When someone is craving you, even silently, they care about how you're doing. They're attuned to your moods. They know when something's off, even before you've said anything, and they'll go out of their way to try and help, often without asking for anything in return. But still, they'll stay guarded. There's a line they won't cross, and that line is where the craving hides. It's the emotional equivalent of standing at the edge of a cliff, wanting to jump but terrified of the fall. So they hover there, present, loyal, dependable, but they don't initiate anything overt. They don't flirt, they don't confess. They might even suppress their own needs just to be what you need, thinking, if I can just be valuable enough, maybe he'll see it, maybe he'll feel it too. But of course, that's not how desire works. You can't earn romantic connection by proving yourself useful, and yet many people who are hiding what they feel still try. It's safer than risking the truth. This is also where emotional self-protection kicks in. She might rationalize her feelings, telling herself, I just care about him as a friend, or I'm just being supportive. And maybe, on the surface, she believes it. But beneath that, there's an emotional current that won't go away, and every time she chooses to show up, to check in, to quietly care, she's reinforcing that connection, even if she won't admit why she keeps doing it. And so the support continues. She's there when others aren't. She remembers your words, your worries, your wins, and still she holds back, because saying what she truly feels means confronting a question she's not ready to answer. What happens if I reveal this and it's not returned? And that's a risk she isn't willing to take. So instead, she stays just close enough to matter, but distant enough to hide. Let's consider something that's often overlooked, but absolutely fundamental. How much someone lets you see them. Not just the version they present to the world, the polished one, the filtered one, but the raw, unguarded glimpses into who they actually are when the performance drops. When a woman is craving you but hiding it, there's a kind of emotional exposure that starts happening, not through declarations or obvious signals, but through shared vulnerability. She begins revealing things that most people don't get to see. And she does it carefully, almost reluctantly, but it happens, bit by bit. You might notice that she starts opening up about her past, about wounds she's carried, regrets she rarely voices, dreams she's afraid to chase. Not all at once. Often it begins in fragments. A quiet comment here, a story she lets slip there, and when it happens, it's not random. She's testing something, testing the space between you to see if it's safe. Because we don't share those pieces of ourselves with people we don't feel drawn to. We don't go there unless something deeper is pulling us in that direction. There's an intimacy in vulnerability. It's not loud. It's not obvious, but it's incredibly revealing. When someone allows you to see their uncertainty, their insecurities, their fears, that's not just conversation. That's a signal of trust. And where there's trust, especially combined with emotional hesitation, there's almost always longing. The desire is there, just beneath the surface, buried beneath protective layers, manifesting not in seduction, but in confession, in truth. And here's the key. This isn't about seeking attention. It's not performance. In fact, often she'll be hesitant even as she's opening up. You'll feel her weighing her words. You'll see the flicker of fear that accompanies what she's saying, because the stakes are high when you're showing someone who you really are. That's not done lightly. That's not done with people you consider disposable, and so you get these moments, these flashes of realness, where she lets you inside the walls she usually keeps firmly in place. She tells you about how something in her life broke her, or about the thing she's most afraid of failing at, and maybe she brushes it off after, tries to laugh it away, change the subject, but that moment mattered. That was the craving speaking without using the language of romance. That was her allowing you to get close, even if she doesn't fully understand why she did it. This kind of hidden desire isn't driven by a fantasy of perfection. It's rooted in the craving to be known, to be seen by someone and still accepted. And that's the terrifying part, because what if she shows you those parts of herself, the broken, the scared, the raw, and you don't understand? Or worse, you walk away. That's the risk, and it's that very risk that keeps her from saying what she actually feels. So instead of expressing love, she shares pain. Instead of asking for affection, she gives you truth. It's a substitute, but a revealing one, and this is where emotional maturity becomes essential. You have to recognize the difference between shallow transparency and real vulnerability. You have to be able to see the meaning behind the moment. Because when someone starts revealing who they are behind the mask, even if they never use the word want, that's often what they are saying. They want to be close, they want to be chosen, but they're terrified to ask. And when you understand that, really it, you realize that sometimes the deepest cravings don't shout. They whisper in the form of truth quietly given.